Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to Get Your Life Today. Today, I'm going to be talking about getting your time and your energy together. So, essentially, time energy management. If this is your first time, welcome. I am Desiree Cocroft. I am your Get Your Life coach. I am a speaker, author, workshop facilitator, nonprofit co founder, just all the things. And what I really enjoy doing is helping women that are ambitious, that are high achieving, that desire to have more in their life, to get more in their personal life and their professional life. And so today I really want to help you really get your energy and your time working together. So the last couple of sessions that I've had with some of my clients have been around time management. And so many of you know I worked for a leadership organization over the last 6 or so years. And I have trained thousands of people on productivity habits, all the things. And so I want to share with you what I typically do with some of my private clients as it relates to time and energy management. So this technique that I teach has to do with positive intelligence. So I'm a positive intelligence coach where you can learn about that. It's a book, Positive Intelligence. And in that book, there is a lot of juicy information about how to really manage yourself and manage some of the things that you might do to self-sabotage yourself. Well, in that training that I've received as a positive intelligence coach, I help people manage their time and their energy. So I won't delve into the positive intelligence part of it, but when I work with people that haven't had that positive intelligence work, this is what I teach them as it relates to managing their time and energy. So here it goes, right? You have energy to do things, but you are not choosing what to do and when to do it in a way that works with you. And so this activity is really to help you get a sense of where you are right now, and then you can decide how you might want to shift how things are going. Because most people come to me saying they feel overwhelmed and there's so much going on and they want to do all these things in their life that they're really passionate about, but they seem time starved and energetically starved. Like, I don't have the time and I'm tired to be able to pursue the thing that I actually desire to do. And so this is a great activity to kind of help you get a sense of where you are. So first, you are going to look at what things do you do. And before I get into it, I really want you to consider your work life or whatever area that you are looking to be more effective in or efficient in. So if you look at your work life, and that's typically what people, come to me about is their work life, look at your work life and I want you to consider all the things you do in a day, right? All the things you do in a day, or you might even consider a week, but all things that you do in a day or a week. And think about what things do you have a lot of energy around, meaning you have a lot of energy, you're excited about doing it, you enjoy doing it, you can't wait to actually go do this one task or this one element of your job. And it also has a high impact on outcomes, meaning I have high energy around this thing. And when it comes to the return on the investment, it is a direct reflection of what would help me be successful at work. It leads to a very high outcome that is really mission focused, mission driven at work, or if you're an entrepreneur in your business, right? So I'm spending time on that and I have a lot of energy around it. So I want you to think about what are those things. So hopefully you have a journal or a pen or paper so you can take notes. So you want to list what those things are. What are those things that give you a lot of energy and they have a high return on investment, meaning they're very impactful to the work that you do? Then I want you to think about what things do you have a high energy around. Oh, I really love doing this. However, it has a low return on investment. It doesn't have a big impact in the biggest goals that you have in your workplace. However, you still have a lot of energy around it. And so this is not me. Well, sometimes it's me. Some people have a lot of energy around making sure their inbox is clean, but having their inbox clean, checking all their emails doesn't necessarily have a high impact on their biggest goals as it relates to work. So that's an example. Now, it depends on what position you have or what business that you run. That might actually be beneficial to you. But as it relates to me and maybe a lot of us, that might not be like the number one thing that ought to be taking all of our time, because it doesn't always have this high impact. So what are those things? What are those things that I got a lot of energy around this? I like doing this. However, it leads to very low outcomes. All right. So get a list for those things. Then we're going to go down to low energy things. Okay, so what is it that is giving you low energy? I don't even feel like doing this. This is probably the thing I probably procrastinate on the most. However, if you spend time on this, when you spend time on this, it has a very high return on investment. It has really high outcomes for your biggest goals in your workplace, in your business, whatever you're focusing on. Then you get to think about the last thing are things that are low energy. You don't have a lot of energy around these things, similar to the last one, except these things don't give you any impact at all, right? The return on investment for these things are very, very low. You probably won't get a return on your investment for these things in time. There won't be as many outcomes, and you don't like doing it anyway, right? And so these are the 4 lists that you're going to do. Again, high energy, high outcomes, high energy, low outcomes, low energy, high outcomes, low energy, low outcomes. It's really important that we put things in these categories. And then you get to, after you listed all the things, you get to, in a way that allows you to see this as like a percentage of a whole day. So you would start putting percentages about how much time you probably spend. If you're doing a day or a week, it's up to you, in a day on these things. So it has to add to 100%. So maybe you do 10% of this, 5% of this, 20, it doesn't matter. All the things you list have to add up to 100%. So that's what actually takes the longest, because it gives us an opportunity to get real. Look at our calendar, look how we're spending our time. Where are we actually putting our focus in? And so this is actually what is super, what is the word? I had a loss for words. It's like one of those things that's super eye-opening. That's what it was. It came back. Super eye-opening to people that I work with when they look at this and they recognize, like, yo, I've been spending a lot of my time on low energy activities that have low outcomes. Like, once you recognize where you're spending your time the most, then you can start deciding, okay, how do I want to shift things? And so when you're thinking about high energy, high impact, I got a lot of energy around these things and they give me a good impact on my outcomes. That's where you want to spend the majority of your time. The things that give you a lot of energy and it's like a win-win, you're getting a lot of impact from those things. Maybe you're getting a lot of impact from them because they're helping you make money. Maybe they are increasing the relationships that you have. Maybe they are just helping you be more successful with your clients. Whatever it is, you get to decide what that is and figure out, okay, am I spending the amount of time I desire to spend on that daily, weekly? You are the judge because you're the only one that knows your own goals in your own life and what you actually desire. So looking at those high energy, high impact activities, are those things that I continue to do and I do them in the amount of time every day or every week that I would like to? And if not, how do I want to shift into doing those more, right? So you get to change some of those numbers. Maybe it's something that you do. You know, I'm when I talk to some of my clients, one of the biggest things that most of them talk about, they really enjoy some of the client meetings that they have at their workplace, and they wish they could spend more time in those client meetings and being very present for those people. And so that might be something for you, or as an example. And so maybe you're spending 20% of your time there, but maybe you would like to spend 35% of your time there. So this is when you get to start changing the percentages of all the things that you said you spent time on that you want to shift, whether you want to shift them up or shift them down. But the thought with high energy, high outcomes, you want to spend more time there if possible, especially if you're not spending the time that you desire there. The next one, when it's high energy, low outcomes. So you have to ask yourself, if these are low outcomes, but you're really energetic about doing it, you get to ask yourself, okay, can I give myself some boundaries? Give yourself some parameters, because let's face it, if I use emails as an example, because that's what would be mine. Sometimes I have a high energy around it, but I know it's like low return on investment. I have to give myself some real serious come to Jesus parameters. It's like, okay, Desiree, you can't be spending hours and hours on emails, taking your precious little time, like you're avoiding doing the things that would actually have a higher impact on the things that you desire. And so I have to put some time constraints on there. So that is a list that you got to look at and say, okay, how can I put some time constraints on this and just get real about where I want to use this high energy. Because if you want to spend a more time in that area where you actually get better outcomes, you need to decrease the time somewhere. And this could be a place to decrease the time in that area of high energy, low impact. Like you're not getting a lot of impact. So you can start putting some parameters, putting some boundaries there because it's energetic. You don't want to take away from something that you actually enjoy, but you have to get real with you about what do you actually desire to be your biggest goal and outcome. If your goals and outcomes are aligned to something that is way more impactful than what you're doing in this low impact area, then you need to switch it up so that you can actually get what you want instead of kind of playing around with your time. When it comes to low energy things, you get to do a couple of things. Low energy, high impact. That's the one where you have to start doing some real thinking, some real strategizing. Because let's face it, there are some things, whether it's in our business or in our company or just in our everyday life, depending on what area you're choosing to use this activity for, that we don't have a lot of energy around. But we know if we did the thing, we would have banging outcomes. This could be any area of your life. This is why I like this activity so much. It can be in your personal life, it can be in your finances, it can be in your health and wellness, how you're spending your time, what's not giving you energy, but it would have a high impact in your life. So I know many of you may know that I, overcame having high blood pressure, and something that I know that was going to be something that would impact that was changing my eating. So a lot of you know I'm a plant-based vegan, and so there wasn't a lot of energy around it at first. Like before I even knew that the doctor was like, you have high blood pressure, I was like, oh, maybe I'll become vegan at some point, right? I didn't have a whole lot of energy around it, even though it could have been very impactful to me. But once I got, the message that, hey, we might have to put you on something, all of a sudden that low energy turned into high energy. So one way is how can you shift your perspective so that your low energy is now high energy? Because this is an area that you get high outcomes in. And if you are not going to be able to approach it with high energy, it's going to be really hard for you to get those outcomes. Outcomes are going to come because of momentum, because you're taking the action that needs to be taken so that you can get those outcomes. If you have low energy around it, you may be leaving money on the table, leaving some things on the table, leaving opportunities on the table because you have this low energy around it. So shifting your perspective and asking yourself, what is the barrier? What is the block that has me having low energy about this? Because many times, if you ask yourself that question or those questions and do some inner work, you might find that it's really this fear of rejection. It's really this fear of failure or this fear of success. And knowing those things can really help you start moving those barriers and blocks, and your low energy can turn into high energy. So the example of me talking about food, it was low energy at first because I didn't know if I could really enjoy all my meals if I wasn't a pescatarian anymore. I really love seafood and I love omelets, all the things. And so when I didn't, have that high blood pressure reading from from my doctor, I was, being real slow about shifting anything, even though I knew I needed to. I had the feeling that I needed to, but I didn't. And I didn't because I was fearing not being able to enjoy my life, and I enjoy food, right? But as soon as I switched from having this low energy around, changing my diet to it being high, because I'm like, I'm not looking to be on anybody's pills and I want to have a high quality of life. Suddenly my energy shifted and my perspective on how I could enjoy eating healthy changed. I started looking for ideas to eat things that I no longer could eat in the traditional sense, but now I needed to make those recipes vegan. And all of a sudden I started finding, books, people that had awesome recipes and restaurants and all the things. And I truly enjoy all of my meals. For those that hear me talk about different food all the time, I enjoy all of my meals. And it's because I shifted my perspective. And now I have very high outcomes in that area of my life. And so the same thing with you, can you ask yourself, well, what is that my hesitation? That's usually like a back pocket question that I use with clients. So you can use it for yourself to self-coach yourself. What is my hesitation? Like, what's really in my way? What's keeping me in this low energy? And so a lot of times we have made assumptions about the thing that we are working through. And because those assumptions are not aligned to something that feels good, it keeps us from wanting to do a thing. So, like I said, I was assuming, like, oh my goodness, my life is going to suck. I'm not going to be able to have good food because I want to, go plant based, right? And so it was an assumption. It was a bad assumption because once I changed my assumption that, hey, me going plant based means I'm going to have good food because there are a lot of great foods to eat. Me changing that perspective is what shifted it. So being able to ask yourself what is your hesitation, what's keeping you from a thing can really help you shift that energy. So that low energy can shift into high energy. That's one way to help you really figure out what to do with those activities that have low energy but high impact, because them having high impact is important. The other thing is you can automate or delegate. So I talk about this with my clients. If you read the book 4-Hour Work Week, which I talk about a lot, then you know that eliminate, automate, and delegate. I talk about that a lot. And so when it comes to low energy, high impact, you don't want to eliminate that activity altogether because it has high outcomes. However, you could rethink how it's done so that you don't have to be the person to do it. And so that could be automated. It still has high impact, but it can be automated. It's something that I tell my clients to automate all the time, and I automate it for myself, is scheduling appointments with people, whether it is personal appointments, professional appointments. I have a calendar link. I don't like going back and forth about meetings. It's a waste of time, and it's very low energy for me. It's too logistical for me to have a lot of energy around it. And so I do my best to automate anything that feels super logistical so that, yes, it's high impact because networking, meeting with people, getting to know people, keeping relationships high is super important to my personal life and my business. And so it's important that I could reduce, the way that I do it so that I'm more excited about doing it. It's like, hey, here's my link, which is way easier. I have a lot more energy around it than I used to going back and forth. And so finding a way to automate something that you have low energy around is chef's kiss. It can really help you move some things around. The other thing is, if you have a team or a family or others in your life, a community, you can delegate. Maybe somebody else has a lot of energy around it. And I love people that have a lot of energy around the things I have low energy around. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're a spreadsheets person? Yes, like you are my people. Because there are things that we all could do. And if you are a high achieving person, if you are a woman that's ambitious, you've already learned how to do all the things. When we are out here making things happen in our lives, we figure it out. But there has to come to a place where we recognize that we don't have to do everything. We don't have to figure out everything. Yeah, that might have worked for us in one part of our life, but right now it may not serve us. We have low energy because we don't feel like doing everything. We already got to put all of our high energy into the things we enjoy. And sometimes we just feel depleted by the time we get to the things that we don't enjoy, but we know it has to be done. And so that is an opportunity for you to get a freelancer or actually hire someone that can help you, or delegate it to the people that you already have on your team. If you are a leader in an organization or have your own business, like delegate it out. Who said you had to do everything? No one. You don't have to do it all. And so you get to delegate it. So these are all things that give you low energy, that have high energy outcomes. It's a great opportunity for you to automate something, delegate it, or change your perspective, change what you're doing. And so last but not least, but kind of least, because this is like these are the things that, we need to wipe off our list, are things that give you low energy. Again, we're in that low energy, but they don't have high impact. It's low energy, but you don't have a lot of impact around these things. Like, they're not impactful. It's like a waste of time. It's almost like checking your notifications, or maybe it's scrolling. I mean, unless you're into marketing and that's the way you do market research. But you are the only one that knows what are those things that they don't really give you energy. You're a zombie doing it, or it's something that you think you have to do, but it's really no outcome. I also think this is kind of like busy work, or work that we created that no longer serves our business or serves our organization, but it's been something that we just keep doing because we just been in the habit of doing it, but it no longer serves us. And so this is a great place for actually the elimination part. So we can't eliminate things that are low energy, high outcomes in the same way that we will in this low energy, low outcomes. When I say eliminate for low energy, low outcomes, I'm like, let's get rid of it. Maybe it's a process that doesn't matter anymore. Maybe we don't need to do it anymore. Maybe it's a task I've been doing but maybe it's a product line or something that doesn't need this task done anymore. Or you did these things in that low energy, high outcomes area. Maybe you automated something and what you were doing that was tedious and didn't give a lot of outcomes is now fixed because you automated something else. And so you can really get rid of a lot of the things that are low energy, low outcomes because they're usually obsolete and usually like busy work things. And sometimes we use it to procrastinate. Just like those high energy, low outcome things, those things I think can be procrastinator things. I think the low energy, low outcome activities can also be like procrastination station things that we're doing, even though we're not productive, it's busy, but it keeps us from having to say that we have time to do the things that might be the hard things. And sometimes the hard things are actually those low energy, high outcome things. So if we get a plan around those things, it helps us not to go into those low energy, low outcome activities because now we've got a plan for, okay, I'm going to do the things that I might have low energy around by changing my perspective. Or you could use that boundaries idea, like giving it a time frame, like, okay, let me block the time because I don't really care to do this, but I know it has good outcomes. Or you can automate it or delegate it. You have a lot of different tools you can use to get those things off of your plate and not spend so much time there, and definitely not spend time in things that are low energy, low outcomes. If this is helpful to you, please put something in the chat box. I want to know, what area do you want to see shift? Maybe you want to see things shift in the area that, okay, I got a lot of low energy around these things and I get high outcomes. I'm going to start shifting this. I would love to know what it is, and would love to know what areas do you find to be very easy for you right now. And so once you get this all laid out for yourself, you can start seeing what you want to shift and put that plan in action in just a little bit every day. I always tell my clients, or when I speak somewhere, the goal is to always be 1% better, 1% better every day. And everyone can do that. That is very doable. We don't rebuild Rome in one day. You can't do everything at once, but you can do something, a little something every day to help you get to your goal. And so you can use this system to keep you from feeling overwhelmed or out of time. And it can really make you get real about how you're spending your time. Because you know what? I say this a lot. As of recently, I'm like, we be lying to ourselves. And I do mean it. Like, some people be offended with the word lying, but I don't. Like, listen, I feel like we be lying to ourselves. Like, oh, I don't have enough time. And what we're really saying is, like, I haven't prioritized well enough, or I haven't sat down to kind of see what I got going on to really make some real decisions about what needs to change. And so that is what I'll leave us with, is that at the end of the day, if we don't see something in our lives that we desire, that means something in us gets to change. We get to decide that I don't want to live in this world where it's normal that I'm pressed for time every day. I don't want to live in this world where I have normalized being, overwhelmed or back to back or hustling all the time and not seeing my goals actually be accomplished. So we get to create a different world. It doesn't mean we get to leave, right? We get to leave this world. We get to create another world. That's what I mean. We can leave the world fictitiously, figuratively, but we get to stay in this world and change our perspective and change what we are creating. We are creating our own situations when we find ourselves overwhelmed or, up against the wall or not getting to a goal. There is either a block that we're having, internally. And sometimes it's because we just don't want to see that something needs to change because we know that it's work to change things. I was saying to a friend the other day that sometimes we can just get addicted to living the life that we live. We are addicted to being busy. I've been that way. I've been addicted to being busy, addicted to having to be hustling all the time and doing all the things. And at the end of the day, I didn't like it and I felt burnt out. But it wasn't until I decided I could create any world I want to create. I can keep creating this, or I can pump the brakes and create something different. And so this is your opportunity to pump the brakes, create something different, because you can. And it's not going to necessarily change overnight in your world physically, but it can change internally. And as a result, you'll start seeing the changes in your world happen over time as you continue to be intentional about doing the inside changes that are necessary so that you can see the outcomes that you desire to see. So I look forward to seeing you the next time. If you like this again, please share, like, comments. We'd love to know what other things you would want to hear me talk about. And until the next time, go and be great and happy Tuesday.